3, 2, 1. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Ash on Comics. Welcome back. Hopefully it's not your first time watching, but if it is, welcome. For those that haven't watched my channel before, what it is basically some schmo on the interwebs who likes comics. I've liked comics since the mid-'80s, and they have a sort of, there's just something that calls out to me about them. I have a strong passion. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. On the screen, you see Stan the Man and Forky. They're sort of co-hosts / mascots of the channel. I used to do live video recordings, and now I just, I do sometimes, but now I do mostly screen capture stuff on the iPad. It makes it easy to capture the digital images rather than filming them. And today's comic is Marauders number 2. So let's talk about it. All the Ash on comics, or the Ash on a specific comic name like Marauders, are just me talking to you like a comic fan, fellow fan to fan about the comic, kind of like you might in a comic book shop talk to other fans or the comic book shop owners or whatever, and just discuss the book. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to present myself as the foremost expert of comics. So I hope you don't take it that way. I do have strong opinions, and I do know some things. I have a lot of experience around the comics industry, and but everything is just, like I said, my opinion. Now, first off, my opinion is this cover sucks. The colors save it. Kudos to the colorist. I really do. It really does pop. And the image of this character coming out of the egg, or the pod, as I should say, because these are all pod people. Russell Dodderman, I don't know why he gets so much praise. I don't get it. And I also don't know what the deal is with Marvel not having the interior artist do the covers. That is a classic thing that comics used to do, is you'd put the guy or girl who did the art, mostly it was guys in the past, that did the art of comic books, they would do the cover as well. You often can tell what you were getting into by the cover. They always say you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but comic books, that's not so true. Comic books were very much sold on the covers, and they still kind of are today, which is why they pay extraordinary rates for cover artists, and they pay, in Marvel's case, they pay crap for interior artists, and that's too bad. That's why they don't have very good interior artists. Yet, in this case, they're paying for Russell Dodderman, who apparently has built up a name for himself in the industry where there's such a lack of talent, and now it's like people like him can be popular. And this interior artist, this Michelle, what's her name? Michelle Bandini, is better in my opinion. And here we start off with the Red Keep, Blackstone, the White Palace. And the first thing I just started thinking to myself when I was reading this book was like, oh gosh, someone read Game of Thrones. Rather, they watched the HBO show. It just feels like that. Anyways, 3 separate strongholds that are one. We ask much of Krakoa, and in return, Krakoa asks much of us. This is Hellfire Bay, and I am her Black King. The dawn of Krakoa has been about righting wrongs, the sins of man, and the sins of the Father. Good day. Hello, sir. Several weeks ago, I strode out of Blackstone to right the most grievous wrong. On that day, I restored the Shaw bloodline. You're just in time, Sebastian. And then we get 2 full pages, a 2-page splash, if you will, devoted towards this little bit of information. It's such a waste of space, but, it's your $3.99, and Marvel's going to snatch every penny. There's another wasted white page that we get. Mutants around the world are flocking to the island nation of Krakoa for safety. It's the same thing over and over. Every book, twice a month, 6 books, 12 times a month you get to read this. And then they put down who's going to star in the book today. And in this issue, it's Sebastian Shaw, Egg, Professor X. Wait, I thought he was dead. Pyro, and Shinobi Shaw. Pyro, incidentally, is the only Marauder. This is a book. It's called The Marauders. But like I said, this book is about someone who read Game of Thrones. Gary Dugan, apparently. They didn't read Game of Thrones. They watched Game of Thrones, and now they're going to write X-Men like Game of Thrones. And that's what this Marauders book is turning into. Gentlemen, ladies, I appreciate the accommodation, Charles. Welcome back to Arbor Magna. If your request for this expedition will help you in your good work, then it is worth the 5 juggling our schedule. So here's Charles and the 5. The 5, if you weren't aware, are the mutants that can make all the resurrection possible. And we're sure this process is a complete resurrection. Pfft, ass Pyro, says Egg. Hey, man. Dun, dun, dun. Look at him drooling over himself. And at this point, they're making the playoff words. And then look at Shaw's face. What? Oh, he's fine. He got into Logan's stash, and we found him here sleeping it off. And my son won't remember what happened? No, man. Not your son or Pyro. Hey, man. So, obviously, this was a play to be a little jokey. Pyro is meant to look like an invalid, like he's just doesn't have any mental faculties, and it turns out he's actually just drunk. They played off earlier in the issue that Pyro went through all these experiments. So if you read those issues, you came like, oh my God, this is because this happens weeks. This is weeks ago. Charles Xavier's not dead because it's in the past. It's a flashback, and he's in a wheelchair. That sells the red herring, right? He's not just sitting on the floor. So then I have to go back into myself and go, wait a second. He just got drunk and then found a random wheelchair somewhere and is sleeping in the pot. Nothing makes sense. It's all contrived so that Dugan can tell some silly Billy joke, because that's all the X-Men are these days, with the exception of Fallen Angels. It's silly Billy humor. Prepare to meet your son again. And Shaw comes out of the pod. Breathe, son. Be calm. Be at ease. Shinobi. Welcome, Shinobi Shaw. Now, this was a book that I feel, number one, I'm going to say it right now, this is the best of the Marauders books. However, that's not high praise. It's the best of, it's better than 2 pretty moronic books. Why is it better? There's an actual story that seems to something interesting to care about, not just a bunch of silly Billy mutants on boats in the high seas invading Russia. And there's the politics of the Hellfire Club and the inner struggles. And like I said, it's very Games of Thronesian, all the backstabbing, the political. It's literally, this is X-Men Game of Thrones. But it's told not by George R.R. Martin, it's Gary Dugan version. And that's the bad part. This story would have had a lot of potential. Shaw is back from the dead. We can see here his corpse. Shaw's remembering. And this whole story is about Shaw basically bringing his son back and initiating him into the Hellfire. Now it's called the Hellfire Trading Company. And wanting to make him first the Black King, which is why we see him in red. But we learned that Kitty Pryde was given that role. She's the Black Queen. Which I don't understand. I feel like modern Marvel never read past Marvel. Why can't there be? So, not why can't there? I should say. If you're recruiting for the Black King, the Black Queen does not. Sorry, did I say black? I mean red. If you're recruiting for the Red King, The red queen doesn't fill that role. The Hellfire Club has a white king and a white queen, a black king and a black queen. They never had red, well, at least not when I was reading. I'm sure maybe at some point in the past. Red's a new thing. So there were 4. A king and a queen and a king and a queen. Now there's just a white, red, and a black, and you are either king or queen based on your gender, which of course is just a social construct anyway, so I'm surprised they didn't call Kitty Pryde the Red King. It doesn't, do you see what I'm saying? There should be a red king and a red queen. And Emma should have had Kitty if she wanted to be, should it be red queen, fine, but Shinobi could be the red king. None of this makes even any sense. It's just like, I read an X-Men book once, and there was a Hellfire Club, and they had characters named after chess pieces, and I researched chess. I heard about this game before, and that's what this feels like. No one really understands what they're writing. Now, Shaw takes his son to the United States. Some military guards that, of course, just kowtow. This is so ridiculous. Shaw says, "What's the meaning of this? Mutants are not to be impeded. Nobody's impeding you. This is more to keep out the gawkers." And then look at this soldier. He's just, "Welcome back to the United States. Do you have anything to declare?" "King. I'm the Black King. That's my declaration." And I was saying that Michelle's art is better than the cover, and I do stand by that, but just Shaw should not look like this. Like, he should never have this sort of like cutesy smirk face. And the United States just being like, "Oh, Krakoa." Krakoa is the new Wakanda. It's just stupid. And no, I'm not saying Wakanda's stupid because the people who are indigenous there have a lot of melanin in their skin. That has nothing to do. It's the concept, the ethno-state, the whole racial superiority. Wakanda did it first. Look, we are more advanced than anyone. Our society is this utopia. We all get along, and we're just better because we are who we are, and our race. They just did that before, and now it's the same thing with mutants. It's tiresome. But they're in this story, you're getting some potential of Shaw trying to bring back his son. It sort of works and it sort of doesn't. I don't understand, like, Shaw seems to care about his son, but then they keep reminding us time and time the son wants to kill the father. Father says, "I want to kill you." It's like, well, if you want to kill each other, you can't have a good bonding father-son moment of two characters who hate each other and just would, "I want to see you dead, son, but I also want to see you alive, and I brought you back from the dead because I care about you, but I don't actually care about you because I want to kill you." And then the most interesting thing was Shaw returning to Japan, to, I guess, his master. I don't actually know a ton about Shinobi Shaw. Shinobi came around when I was getting out of X-Men. So this was kind of a cool part. Then we get this stupid top secret letter from the X desk. What the hell is the X desk? Again, Gary Dugan just doesn't. And they're like, after the Marauders sailed from the UK in their new ships, a series of sea trials took place, including rough weather tests courtesy of Aurora Monroe. Get it? She can do the weather, so they did some harsh weather sea trials of the boat. That's so interesting. I'm so glad you wrote this in here. Then they went to Island M, and it's like, oh, look, there's Island M. And then Catherine talked to Lucas Bishop, and we intercepted some text messages and blah, blah, blah. Look at this literal wall of text, and it's not interesting, and it's not important, other than to tell us that they intercepted a text message. Then we get the text message. Oh. And it's like almost like they forgot how texting works. But anyways, like, when was the last time you texted someone and you were like, introduced yourself? They know who the text comes from, unless it doesn't have your name next to the text and it just has a phone number. But if it says KP, that means they're on your contacts list. And then they know. Anyways, it's K. Hey, gonna need an answer. A lot of action here. I'm holding back my other candidates, but I don't want to kick the can down the road forever. I gave you my answer. I thought you were kidding when you said no. No, I was not. I believe I said, hell no. Plush, you look great in red. No, I won't, kitty. Fine, bishy. Sorry, old habits. You were born to be a real bishop. Why is Kitty Pryde so sucked into the Hellfire Club now? It doesn't make sense. There's no... Not only has she accepted Emma's offer, which I could see, like, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to reluctantly. But she's just like... She's more Hellfire Club than X-Men these days. It makes no sense. And then, of course, Gary Duggan, who's trying to do his own little Game of Thrones thing here. Oh, his name's Bishop. Wouldn't that be cool if he was actually a bishop? Also, get it? Bishop is the bishop. Oh, I hadn't thought of that one. Oh, we're going to need new burner phones. Why? If you're letting people see your texts and you don't care, which they talk about in the wall of text, why? I don't know. Nothing matters. I think they just watched an episode of 24 and like, oh yeah, they have these things called burner phones. I gotta write that in my stories. Anyway, sorry, I'm just being so cynical. Like I said, here we go. We're still seeing the whole. This is Shaw telling his son, like, I need you to be my right hand. You can be the Black Bishop. Emma's outsmarted me. She's already got a Red Queen, and there's no explanation of why he can't be Red King. Anyways, so he takes him out and shows him a boat, but it's not the real boat. That's actually the White Bishop's boat. And whatever, it's a submarine. And he shows him the little stealth visible boat, courtesy of Wonder Woman. I mean, I don't know where this came from. But anyways, he's like, a frigate? Krakoa needs her. She needs a captain, and I need an ally. I need you to be Black Bishop, with more accolades to come. Okay, so apparently the Marauders is about multiple teams with boats, or he's probably going to be the villain to Kitty Pryde, and they're going to have to fight in the high seas battle of boats. Whatever. And then he's like, I need one thing in advance. You know how I died, don't you? Says Shinobi. I do. And then he sees a reflection. His hands like through his face. It hurts to say, but the red and the white and red queens conspired to murder you. So that's the end of the issue. It's not great. I was kind of bored. Like I said, I did find some things somewhat interesting. I mock it for the Game of Thrones wannabe stuff, but honestly, I don't mind that. I loved Game of Thrones for specifically the reason of what Game of Thrones was. I don't mind. I love that political intrigue. I just feel it's too fanfickish here. Gary Duggan doesn't seem qualified to pull it off well. It just feels like amateur hour. It feels like high school kid, like I said, high school kid writing his own Game of Thrones fanfic. I'm just not caring. And Shaw, it has been kind of already reduced to a doofus in Marauders so far. I mean, he elevates him a little bit in this book, but there's not much to mock. The other books were bad, and I could really ridicule them and make fun of them. This book, not so much, which is a good thing. But it's also not good enough to praise or show you, like, oh, look at this scene, look at this bit of dialogue, the character development. It's just paint by numbers, really basic stuff. But for $4.99 a comic, twice a month, with 6 books total, soon to be 10 on Wave 2, I think by Wave 2, I can't keep track of all the books they're releasing. Like, it's too much. It's drivel. I just want 1, 2, maybe 3 X books that are top notch. Give me brilliant, right? Give me what House of X and Powers of X was. I'll pay for 2 or 3 books like that. Condense your quality. Quit spreading the butter too thin over a whole loaf of bread. Anyways, sorry if this video was boring. the book was kind of boring. This is Marauders. Thanks for watching.